There was a man named Walt who parked his truck at the end of my cousin's street for almost 2 years. Retired long-haul driver, 31 years over the road. And when his wife passed and the house went to medical bills, he kept the one thing that still ran. A white Ford F-250 with a camper shell on the back, kept clean as a showroom. He parked it near his daughter's place most nights. Had a foam mattress in the bed, a small cooler, a lantern, and a routine. He bothered nobody. Then one morning in February, a code enforcement officer saw condensation on the inside of the shell windows, knocked on the tailgate, and wrote Walt 3 tickets before he had his boots on. One for window obstruction, one for unlawful lodging in a vehicle, and one for improper storage of a compressed fuel cylinder, which turned out to be the 1-pound propane bottle for his lantern. Walt drove trucks his whole life and had never heard of a single one of those laws. Neither had I. So I went looking, and what I found is that most of the ordinary things a person does to live out of a truck, the things that keep you warm, fed, and rested, carry criminal penalties in most of this country. Not warnings, misdemeanors, with up to 90 days in jail in 44 states. We are going to walk through all 15 of them, starting with the small technical stuff and working down to the ones that cut deeper than any legal trick. By the end, I want you to see what this list actually adds up to, because these are not just hacks. They are a paper trail of something that was done on purpose to people who were already down. Number 15, parking the truck on a residential street at all. Before you ever hang a curtain or light a stove, the truck itself can be the violation. Cities across the country ban vehicles over a certain weight rating from parking overnight on residential streets. The line is often 10,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating, and some cities set it as low as 6,000. Open your driver's door and look at the sticker on the jam. A 3/4-ton pickup like Walt's F-250 sits right around that 10,000-pound line, which means in plenty of towns it is illegal to leave on a residential block overnight, empty or loaded, lived in or not. These ordinances were written to keep box trucks and semis out of neighborhoods, but the code does not care what your truck is for. It reads a number. And a parking citation means a plate run. And a plate run on a truck with a camper shell at 6 in the morning is how everything else on this list gets started. So check your GVWR. Then check the parking chapter of the local code for a weight limit, because a 1/2 ton passes almost everywhere and a 3/4 ton often does not. If your truck is over the line, off-street parking, a relative's driveway, or the next town over becomes the play. And that sticker on the door jamb matters for a second reason almost nobody thinks about, which is the next one. Number 14, overloading the truck with your whole life. A sliding camper weighs anywhere from 1,200 to 3,000 pounds before you add water, tools, food, and gear. The payload rating on most 1/2-ton pickups runs 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. Do that math, and half the rigs on the road are over their rating the day the build-out is finished. Running a personal pickup overweight can draw a citation in some states, but the ticket is not the real danger. If you are in an accident and the insurance company's inspector finds the truck was loaded past its rating, they have grounds to fight the claim. And when the truck is also the house, a denied claim means losing both at once. The fix costs about $14. Every CAT scale at every major truck stop will weigh your rig axle by axle. Weigh it loaded the way you actually live, set the numbers against the door sticker, and shed weight until it works. Water is usually the culprit. It weighs 8 pounds a gallon. and 40 gallons as a full-grown man riding in your bed that you forgot about. Number 13, cooking on the tailgate with a propane stove. The tailgate kitchen is practically a tradition. Drop the gate, set the camp stove on it, cook your dinner standing in the open air. It feels about as harmless as anything you can do. But in a growing number of cities, using an open flame cooking device on a vehicle parked on a public street is treated the same as lighting a campfire on the sidewalk. It falls under fire codes and anti-camping ordinances. The city of Grants Pass, Oregon, in the case that went all the way to the Supreme Court in 2024, specifically named a camp stove as one of the behaviors its ordinance was written to stop. Location is everything here. The same stove at a campground, a rest area, or on public land outside city limits is generally legal. On a city street, it becomes evidence of camping. The cleanest setup is an induction cooktop running off a battery bank. No flame, no fuel bottle, no ordinance, and the coffee tastes exactly the same. But if you do run propane, the bottle itself carries its own set of rules, and that is the violation that caught Walt. Number 12, carrying propane the wrong way. Fire codes and transport rules in many states regulate how compressed gas cylinders ride in a vehicle. The standard that keeps you legal in most places is upright, secured so they cannot roll, valves closed, and in a ventilated space. That means the bed, not the cab, and not sealed inside a hot camper shell on a July afternoon, where a 1-pound bottle can vent through its relief valve in the heat. Some jurisdictions also cap how much propane can be inside an enclosed vehicle at all, and one more that catches travelers completely cold. Major tunnels ban propane outright. The tunnels in Boston, the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel, most of the crossings into New York City. Drive through with a cylinder aboard and you have committed a hazardous materials violation, carrying a serious fine. The setup that passes inspection everywhere is bottles upright in a milk crate strapped down in the bed. And if propane is your heat source, use a catalytic heater rated for indoor use and mount a battery-powered carbon monoxide detector at head height where you sleep. Propane burns clean right up until it does not. And carbon monoxide is the one thing you will never smell and never wake up from. Number 11, sleeping it off in the driver's seat. Say you had 2 beers at a bar, did the responsible thing, and climbed into your truck to sleep instead of driving home. In most states, you can still be arrested for DUI. The doctrine is called actual physical control, and it says you do not have to drive drunk to be guilty. You only have to be in a position to. Driver's seat, keys within reach, sometimes nothing more than a warm engine, and courts in state after state have upheld convictions for people who never moved an inch. A DUI means a suspended license, and for someone living in a vehicle, losing the license means losing the home, the transportation, and usually the income in one stroke. The protection is simple and absolute. If you have had anything to drink, you sleep in the back, behind the cab, and the keys go in a bag at the far end of the camper, not in the ignition, not in your jacket pocket in the front seat. The physical distance between you and the controls is your legal defense, so build as much of it as you can. Before the next one, I also put together a guide on cutting about $3,200 a year out of household bills, using methods people living on the road figured out first. Link in the description. Number 10, sleeping in the open bed under a tarp or canopy. Some people skip the camper shell entirely, a cot in the bed, a tarp stretched over the rails, or a soft canopy. It is cheap and it works in dry weather. Legally, it is the worst possible look. A tarp over a truck bed with a person under it reads as camping from 100 feet away. 30 states have view obstruction laws that get cited on parked vehicles with covered glass, and habitation ordinances in cities like San Diego have listed obscured windows and visible bedding as primary evidence of dwelling. That evidence is what opens the door to the full investigation, the search, the stack of citations. A hard shell with plain windows and removable interior panels. Foam board cut to fit each window, set in place at night and stored flat by day, keeps you dry, keeps you invisible, and keeps the officer's first 10 seconds boring. In this life, boring is the goal. If the budget only allows a tarp, run it low, flat, and gray, rigged like a load cover over cargo rather than a tent over a bed. Number 9, running a generator in the truck bed. A small gasoline generator can charge a phone, run a fan in August, and power a CPAP machine. And for anyone who sleeps with a CPAP, that last one is not a luxury. But the generator sits at the intersection of 3 separate problems. Noise ordinances, because a typical small unit runs 50 to 70 decibels, which lands in violation territory in most residential areas after 10 at night. Anti-idling and nuisance rules. And in cities with active habitation enforcement, the generator itself gets listed as evidence of dwelling. The health risk is worse than people assume, because a generator running in or beside the bed pushes carbon monoxide that drifts under door sills and through window gaps even when it sits outside. The practical answer is a battery power station charged by a solar panel on the shell roof or by the alternator while you drive. And for anyone running medical equipment, it is worth a direct phone call to the county health department, because some counties keep quiet programs for people with power-dependent medical needs. Number 8, carrying fixed blade tools in the cab. A hatchet, a fixed blade knife, a locking multi-tool. When you live outdoors, these are as ordinary as a coffee cup. The law does not always see it that way. Michigan prohibits carrying daggers, dirks, or stilettos anywhere in a vehicle. Oklahoma extends concealed carry rules to items stored in a car. A handful of states draw hard lines on fixed blades carried out of plain sight but within reach, some at 3 inches, some at 4. The standard that holds up almost everywhere is this: a folding knife under 3 inches kept somewhere visible is rarely an issue. Anything bigger and anything fixed blade belongs locked in a toolbox in the bed, behind the cab, away from the driver. Not because owning it is illegal, but because during a stop that started with a habitation complaint, what the officer sees in those first 10 seconds decides how the next hour goes. A locked toolbox reads as a tradesman. A hatchet on the passenger seat reads as a problem. If this list is worth your time so far, hit subscribe. I put out one video like this every week on the laws and systems that land hardest on ordinary people, and the last few items here are the ones that go the deepest. Number 7, building a sleeping platform in the bed. Here's the strange part. The build-out itself is legal nearly everywhere. A plywood platform, drawers underneath, a mattress on top, insulation on the shell walls. No Department of Motor Vehicles in the country stops you from doing any of it. Your truck, your business. But in cities with habitation ordinances, officers are trained to look through camper shell glass for one thing: a permanent sleeping arrangement. Nothing about the platform breaks a law. It is simply the exact evidence the ordinance sends officers out to find. And the honest answer, the one that sits wrong with me, even as I say it, is concealment. A platform that breaks down or folds, bedding stowed in bags that read as cargo, the whole interior arranged to look like a work truck hauling equipment rather than a home. There is something backwards about a country where a man gets treated as a criminal for building himself a place to sleep. but that is the current environment, and pretending otherwise helps nobody who is actually out there in it. Number 6, leaning on truck stops and rest areas. Truckers sleep at truck stops, so people assume a pickup with a camper shell can too. Sometimes, yes, but understand what the ground rules actually are. Truck stops are private property, and the big chains hold the right to remove anyone. Most tolerate one overnight in the car lot if you buy fuel or food and stay out of the commercial spaces, because a pickup parked in a semi-slot takes a legally mandated rest spot from a driver on federal hours of service rules, and that will get you rousted fast and deservedly. State rest areas run posted limits between 3 and 8 hours in most states, long enough to sleep, short enough that a second night becomes a violation. The quiet third option most people never consider is the public library during the day. Legal protections for library patrons are stronger than in almost any other public space, and librarians in most jurisdictions are trained not to remove anyone based on appearance. Add a YMCA membership at around $40 a month and you have showers, restrooms, and daytime shelter with zero legal exposure. Number 5, the address problem. This one runs underneath everything else on the list and almost nobody talks about it. Your driver's license, your registration, your insurance, your bank account, and your mail all assume you have a residential address. Living in the truck, most people quietly borrow one from family, the way Walt used his daughters. It mostly works until it does not. Insurance companies rate your policy partly on where the vehicle is garaged at night, and if a claims investigator figures out the truck never lived at that address, they have an opening to fight the payout. License renewals under Real ID want proof of residence, and a post office box does not qualify. Let the registration lapse because the renewal notice went to an address you never check, and now every parking stop starts with an expired tag. There is a legal, established path here that full-time RVers have used for decades. South Dakota and Texas both allow you to establish legal domicile through mail forwarding services built for people who live on the road. A real street address, mail scanned and forwarded, and in South Dakota, a single night's campground receipt is enough to sit for a driver's license. It runs about $100 to $150 a year, and it takes the shakiest part of vehicle living, the part that can unravel your license plates and insurance all at the same time, and turns it into paperwork that holds. Number 4, leaving a dog alone in the truck. 31 states have laws against leaving an animal in a parked vehicle in conditions that could cause harm, and the trigger in most of them is not a specific temperature. It is conditions that could cause distress. Language written deliberately broad. In California, a first offense is an infraction, but if the animal is injured, it becomes a misdemeanor carrying up to 6 months. In New Hampshire, a second offense is a felony. And in 14 states, any bystander who believes a dog is in danger has the legal right to break your window to pull it out. For a man whose dog is the last family he has, this one is brutal because the dog cannot come into the grocery store or the courthouse or the clinic. The workable tools are a battery-operated fan or 12-volt cooler for the cab, and a remote temperature monitor, about $30, that pushes an alert to your phone the moment the interior crosses a set threshold. Not a perfect answer, just the available one. Number 3, sleeping in your truck on a public street. Everything so far has been a specific behavior with a specific fix. This is the base act itself. In 44 states, under current city and county ordinances, sleeping in your vehicle on a public street is a criminal act in most cities with more than 50,000 people. The penalties climb a ladder. First offense, a fine. Second, a bigger fine, and a mandatory court appearance. And in places like Grants Pass, a third offense carries up to 90 days in county jail for sleeping. The legal alternatives are real and worth writing down. Safe parking programs operate in Los Angeles, San Diego, Seattle, Portland, and Santa Barbara, among others. Church and county lots where vehicle residents park legally overnight with restroom access and sometimes caseworkers. The wait lists are real, but so are the programs. Bureau of Land Management land outside city limits carries no habitation ordinance at all, and dispersed camping there requires no permit. State rest areas give you those 3 to 8 legal hours. And wherever you do park in town, keep moving, at least every couple of days, to a different block in a different neighborhood, because plate readers and repeat complaints are how one citation turns into a stack. The honest truth is that the map of places where a tired man can legally close his eyes in his own truck is smaller than it has any right to be. You will not find that claim in an opinion column. You will find it written into the municipal codes themselves. Number 2, not knowing the local ordinance before you park. This is not a hack. It is the mistake underneath every item so far. The same behavior is legal in one city and a misdemeanor in the next county over. Weight limits flip at the city line. Cooking rules flip at the city limit. One town has a habitation ban and the town 2 miles down the highway has none, because these ordinances were written by separate city councils answering separate neighborhood complaints in separate years with no coordination at all. The rules were never designed to be consistent. So before committing to a city or even a street, pull up the municipal code. It is public record, posted online almost everywhere. Search the city name along with vehicle habitation ordinance or camping ordinance, read the penalty section, and learn how many hours you have before a violation begins. It sounds obvious. Almost nobody does it, and it is the single habit that would have saved Walt. Number 1, believing that following the rules will keep you safe. This is the one everything else was building toward. You can run every play on this list perfectly. Weigh the truck, strap the bottles in the bed, sleep behind the cab with the keys stowed, blades locked in the toolbox, platform broken down by morning, a legal domicile on file. And you can still be cited, still be towed, still be told to move along. Because these ordinances were never written to protect the man in the truck. They were written to move him along, not toward anything better, just off that city's books. The knowledge here is real and it will lower your risk, and that matters. But being prepared and being safe are not the same thing, and it would be dishonest to tell you otherwise. Walt did nothing wrong. He kept his truck clean, asked nothing of anyone, and lost it to fines he could not pay under laws he never knew existed, 200 feet from his daughter's front door. Here's the part worth carrying out of this video. None of this happened by accident, which means none of it is permanent. These ordinances were drafted by people, voted through by councils, signed by mayors, and they have been reversed before. San Diego paid $3 million to settle a lawsuit over its habitation ordinance. Cities that had bans in 2020 have since repealed them under legal pressure. The map is small right now. It does not have to stay that way. Tell me in the comments, how many of these did you know were criminal offenses before today? Most people can count them on one hand, and that gap between what is written in the code books and what ordinary people know is exactly how these laws survive.